What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Review for To Your Eternity. This is episode 4. Is it 4 or 5? I think it's 5, right?
It's 4.
Or 4. Okay.
It's 4.
With me, as always, I have Blue Spade.
Mm-hmm. There's not a lot that really happens in this episode until a lot of the exposition or much of the character development stuff in regards to Bond by the later half of the episode.
I feel like this episode has more comedy, and I don't know. I don't know about you, but I just don't like it because I know like Bond is mostly just a comedic character, like comic relief character. And I just don't really find a lot of the jokes with him that funny. I find Bond just more annoying than anything, to be honest. I feel like he just conflicts with the tone of the series. Like, because up until this point, it's been pretty dramatic. And I mean, there's been some comedic moments, but I just feel like there have been much more of that since Bond showed up. And I'm really not sure how to feel about it. Also, I really am not sure where this relationship between like Fushi and Kahaku is going. Because a lot of it seems to imply they're, and this is what I was guessing when they first started like interacting, is that I felt like it was going to become some kind of weird romantic thing. And it kind of like, because in this episode, like Kahaku asks basically like Fushi what his preference is, like men or women. And, he says it's women, which also makes me, I mentioned this before too. And I feel like this is even more of a plot hole now. Like, okay, if he's interested in women and he's not like, asexual the way like I thought he was, you're telling me in this like 200, actually even more than that, over 200 years that Fushi's been alive at this point, that he's never like had any kind of inclinations toward like, toward the opposite sex. I mean, because he even says, and this was also my theory too, is that he sees himself as more of a guy because, the form he usually takes is that of the boy. So he sees himself as a man for the most part, even though, he can turn into a woman. But he sees himself more as a guy. So, and he's interested in women. So like, I don't know. It's just really confusing to me. I don't really understand that part of his character.
Kahaku, like...
Well, and I know what Kahaku's getting at because like Kahaku sees him as a woman because of him taking the form of Perona most of the time that he's around. And I really hope this is not going where I think it's going, and it's going into some like weird romance subplot or something with them, because that, to me, that would just be very strange because like we mostly know Fushi as a guy for the most part. So I don't know. It would just be really weird if that's where it's going, because I feel like that's where this could be going, or it just could be like a one-sided thing, but I'm not sure. I don't know how you feel about it.
It's strange. It's strange because out of all the Hayase descendants that we've seen since the season started, it's Kahaku, who's the male descendant, is the more, we get the most time out of this guy compared to all the other descendants that we see who get completely time skipped over.
A lot of them have just like, we've only been introduced to like some of them, and we never really get really much of anything about them.
I mean, there's still not a lot to go on between the whole Kahaku and Fushi friendship, or whatever you call it at this point. It's just because initially Kahaku never had much of an interest with Fushi when he first met him, but ever since Fushi decides to disguise himself in his Perona form, then he suddenly just has this romantic attraction to him. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I already pointed this out in the previous episodes. It's just there's no chemistry between the two. And it just Kahaku and obviously all of the other descendants just want always have this odd fantasization of wanting to be with Fushi by just, I don't know, just taking some these weird advances towards him when it's obvious Fushi doesn't want anything to do with him.
Yeah. Well, and I guess the funny part about that in regards to Kohaku is he didn't really have any interest in Fushi until he took Perona's form in that way.
And he tries convincing Fushi that, oh, it's okay for you to like a guy even if you're a woman or such and such. Which just, I don't know, it just comes off as a little bit desperate in Kohaku's part, because it's obvious that he wants to be with Fushi in his, in Fushi's female form, I guess. But yeah, it's just, it just, the way Kohaku, just tries to talk to Fushi about, starting a relationship with someone just comes off as desperate.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I just don't really, to me, I don't know, Kohaku hasn't really, there, like you said, there's not a lot of chemistry between them so far. And I feel like that whole subplot that they have in this season is just kind of, I feel like it might just become a running joke or something. And I think that might just be all their relationship is, but I mean, who knows? But yeah, like you said, there's not really a lot of worth talking about in the first half of the episode, because a lot of it is more like comedy. They are, I guess, setting out to, as in the last episode, Bond promised Fushi that he would give him an army to fight against the Knockers. And I guess now they're basically what exactly are they? They're going to, I don't know. They're going to I guess journey somewhere with Bond or his men somewhere. But then we just kind of randomly get a flashback with he kind of just Bond's backstory, where basically it shows that he is communicating with ghosts, or these different dead people around his castle, and of course his parents thought he was crazy because they thought he was just talking to himself. But of course one of those ghosts ends up being Tanari, and this really isn't surprising before they reveal it's her, because I could tell it's her based on the little bit they show and just also her voice. So I already knew it was her. But yeah, she's the one that tells him about Fushi. But there's also there's also this girl that he ends up talking to, because we see it earlier in the episode. There was this handkerchief he had that has some flower embroidery on it that he, I guess, really values, because it was given to him by the ghost of this girl. I was a little bit confused about this because there's I guess some, obviously he liked her or something. And she ends up leaving or disappearing. But I mean, he could still, I don't know. I forget exactly. Did they explain why she had to go? She just disappeared, wasn't around the castle anymore.
There wasn't really much of an explanation. I don't know. Why. I still have some questions, because we know Tonari is one of the people that Fushi's interacted with, but then there's these two other guys, with one with some kind of sword on his head, and then this girl that Bond has a liking to, but we've never seen them around with Fushi at all, unless if there are people that Fushi's interacted with during that 200-year time skip.
It's possible, but I just thought they were just ghosts of people who had died, who had some relation to Bond's family or the castle or something. But we do see that Bond is able to see Fushi, all the things and people that had died, that had a relationship with Fushi. Because we see the first time that Bond sees Fushi in his Perona form when he's walking around the city. And there's the ghosts of all the things that he had come into contact with, just following him around.
Yeah, it's weird, because they mentioned, I think Fushi's creator mentioned that all the souls of his friends have passed on into another plane of existence or something. But then we just see them all, I guess, still following Fushi, still retaining their sentience.
Yeah. I wonder if there's going to be something more with that. But I mean, because we know that he can, of course, take their forms and all that. But
there's another thing that I want to point out earlier on this episode is Bon asks, because like Bon was talking to Fushi when Fushi was building that, I guess, that mini house, outside the castle, with Fushi explaining how he can manifest objects and he interacted with. And Bon at one point asks like if he can, like, I guess, manifest some living thing, but Fushi tries to bring out a crab, but it ends up being dead or something like that.
Yeah.
So it leads me to believe that that there might be a possibility that Fushi might resurrect someone from his past, and of course Bon sets out and tries to look for Fushi, but yeah, like we mentioned earlier, Bon finds out who Fushi is because I guess the spirits of all the people that Fushi's interacted with are following him, so that's how Bon is able to figure this out. But it's still unclear as like to how Bon has this kind of ability to see spirits and all.
Yeah, I'm guessing they'll probably go more into that later on.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I still had mixed feelings on this episode.
Yeah.
Due to the fact that there's just not a lot happening in this episode. It was really slow.
I felt like the season
and not
kind
to
of
mention,
like started off interesting with the whole Descendants of ISA thing, but then it just kind of, I don't know. I feel like, especially like ever since, well, mostly like since, the way they handled Tonari's death, it's kind of like at that point where I felt like it, and also just the time skip. I started to have just like, I wasn't really sure about the season. And also like them introducing Bon. I'm now just, I don't know. It just feels like, it's very different than the first season, and not in really in a good way, in my opinion. Like, I don't know.
I'm also disappointed with I don't know, the relationship between Fushi and Kahaku, because we know for a fact that Fushi's always hated Hayase, and I would have thought that this would create some dynamic for Fushi to have some interaction, or have some discussion with Kahaku about it, his time with Hayase and stuff. Yeah. And then,
you like give Hayase some kind of. Well, I get why. Yeah, I mean, Hayase is pretty much beyond any kind of redemption at this point. But I mean, maybe it could have been like something where he has a better opinion of the descendants of Hayase or something, like because of how their relationship develops or something like that. I mean, I guess maybe that could still go there.
Yeah, but right now I just don't see it going anywhere with Kahaku right now, because right now Kahaku is just, I don't know. I just see him. He just comes off as desperate and wanting to.
All his character is about right now is just trying to basically trying to get with Fushi, like, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, it's just I thought that there would be some kind of like better dynamic of between Fushi and Kahaku, but about Fushi wanting to give these descendants a chance, but it just seems like every like Fushi mentioned, like even during the time skip, like every single one of them tried to have some kind of unwanted advance toward him, and Fushi just each and every time just pushes them away because of that.
Yeah, but I don't really have too much else to say about this episode. It felt like the pace is definitely like slowed down, which I want to say is good, but I also just, I don't know, like because it's just focusing on stuff that just doesn't really seem all that important, to be honest, because it's just like we mentioned, like a lot of the episode is more comedy shenanigans and stuff, and not a lot of like general plot progression or anything like that. Maybe it seems like we'll probably get more of that in the next episode though, but based on the preview. But yeah, this episode, like I don't know, I still have very mixed feelings about the season, and I'm kind of waiting for there to be something that kind of turns that around a little bit. But yeah, like right now, I'm very, like I said, very mixed on it. Definitely has not had as strong a start as season 1 did. But I don't know if you have anything else to say about it.
Yeah, there's just not much of an emotional pull like it did in the first season. and in which you actually cared about like all the people that Fushi's interacted with, and how his reaction is, and like on having to lose someone while he can't. But now it's just not. He's like the people he's interacted so far is Heisei's descendants, and of course the first notable person is Bond.
Yeah.
And of course the and the fact that with Tonari coming back and then her getting just killed off just shortly afterwards, just I don't know, it's just it just kind of got into a weird place soon after that.
Yeah, it really did. So but yeah, guys, that all being said, until next week, we will see you all next time.